Hi, welcome to Making Coils with Mrs. Sudak. In order to make coils, we're going to use something called the coil extruder, so you don't have to make them by hand. First step is to get a very large chunk of clay, and you're going to pound it on one of these mats into a oblong log shape, just like so. Our next step is to head towards the back sink where we're going to access the coil extruder. Next to the coil extruder, you're going to see a bin that has many different plates in it, as well as this piece. You're going to need to access these things. First, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to find this rubber ring, and you're going to place it inside this metal base. If you notice inside of this bin, you're going to find lots of different plates. This one is good to use along with this one. This is the size of the coil that you're going to make. You might notice that in this bin, you're going to find lots of different shapes, and they can all be used depending on what you're doing. This one makes different sized, different shapes of coils, but for this demo, we're going to use this one. Now, if I were to put this plate in here and then ram clay through it, it would make all of these different sizes of coils, and we don't want that. So we need to take this metal plate and select what size coil we want. For this project, in this demo, we're going to use this one. So I'm just going to lay this on top. If you were using one that just had one hole, then this piece would not be necessary. So go ahead now and put this inside on top of the rubber ring, followed by this metal plate to select your coil. Next, you're going to notice that the coil extruder has these two posts. This is where you're going to grab this, and we're going to connect this to this, simply putting on and connecting to the coil. You can see that we've connected the bottom piece that we put together to the extruder, and now we can go ahead and insert our clay. So you can see the reason that we made the clay into a log shape is that so it will fit into this hole. You can just go ahead and drop it down, and now you're ready to make coils. Before we get started making your coils, make sure that you have a board with paper towel on top, sitting on a chair or a stool so you can catch the coils once they come out of the extruder. All right, it's time to extrude our coils. In order to do this, you must take this metal piece, loop it over the top, and now you crank it like you're getting water out of a well, up and down until you feel it hit the clay. At which point you're going to feel it and you're going to have to push down a lot harder, and you can see that the coils are starting to come out of the bottom, and that's what's going to give you perfect coils. Work together with your group to help get the coils laid down flat onto your board. If you hear popping, that's just air bubbles in your coils from the clay, and that's okay. And you want to keep doing this until it doesn't go anymore. Right, that's the last of my coils. So I can go ahead, pick it up, and I have a nice board of coils that I can work with for this project. When you're finished, you have to crank this up by hand. So crank up and pull up at the same time. Until it lifts out. Then you're going to want to take your base off by twisting. Okay. You're going to see that some clay, a big piece of clay is going to get stuck at the bottom, like that. And this is all clay that needs to get scraped off, wiped off. All this excess can go back into the bag. And then this whole thing can come apart and get washed. Cleaning out the extruder pieces is a major pain and hassle, but it is worth it to get perfect coils. In order to clean this out, you're going to want to use one of these plastic scrapers, and you're just going to go ahead in there and scrape all the clay away. Same with inside the extruder. You can see lots of clay gets stuck down on the inside. I would do the same thing. Use your plastic rubber scraper, and you can just go in here or down with your hand and scrape all of the clay away. A textured sponge, which will also be back at the back sink, is good for cleaning off the parts. So when you're done, make sure all the clay is cleaned up and the extruder looks clean for the next group. All right, so we have our coils from our extruder. The first thing we need to do before we get started with our coils is create a base. In order to do this, you'll need to have a slab. I'm not going to show you how to roll a slab because you already know how to do that. When I talk about a base, I'm talking about the actual bottom of whatever you're making. So that's why we're starting with a slab. Right? So I have a slab here, and I want you to just use the inside or the outside of a tape dispenser here. I'm just going to carve around the inside using my needle tool to create a circle. And I'm going to take a small knife, just like this, and I'm going to cut that out. Now I have a base where I can add my coils. We already have our coils made, so the next thing that you're going to need to have is slip, a serrated rib, and a paintbrush, and a blending tool would also. When we start adding coils, you can see that this example here has coils that are added and then they're not blended in, but you can also blend every coil in so you can't see them. That's up to you how you want to go about doing that. I want you to try both, and I'll show you how to do so. And you can see also some decorative coils in here that aren't blended in. You should see a sheet at your table that shows all the different types of coils you can also make and incorporate. So getting started with your coil pot. First thing you're going to need to do is scratch the edge in which you're going to lay your first coil on your slab. You're also going to want to scratch your coil. You want to make sure when we add our coil on that it goes and fits in one solid piece the whole way around. Okay? Where it meets and joins, you can just go ahead and cut. Then we know how long it needs to be. Work together as a group to do this. Go ahead and get your slip. Access a brush as well. And go ahead and slip those areas where you're about to join. You're gonna lay your coil on. And again, if you have some overlap, you can just go ahead and pinch off any extra clay that you have. That's the basics of laying on a coil. It's very important that you blend your coils in. So if you want your coils to actually show on the outside, you want to make sure that you blend them on the inside. Okay. And while somebody's taking care of this, other people in your group can be working on cutting your coils or making some decorative coils for your coil pot. So you're going to make sure you blend all of your edging in. Some key things to coil pots. If you want the shape of your pot to change, so imagine I wanted my coil pot to just be a straight cylinder, it just goes straight up. I would make sure that I laid my coils directly on top of each other as I worked my way up to the top. If I want my coil pot to go outward, I'm going to make sure that I lay my coils towards the outer edge, and each time when I stack, I'll lay another one towards the outside, and then another one towards the outside, and eventually my pot will go out. If I want the opposite to happen and I want my pot to come inward, I will do the opposite. So I'll lay my coil towards the inside, and then my next coil will get laid on the inside, and then you'll create something that looks more like this, where here initially I laid them out, and then they start to come in, and then they slightly go out again. That has to do with where you lay the coils on top of each other. Okay. So I want you to just try a couple of things, stack some up, try blending on the inside and the outside, and then create some decorative coils as well. If the coils that you made are too thick to create decorative coils, it's very easy to make them thinner. All you do is take them and roll them out on your mat, making sure you do this on the mat, otherwise they'll stick. So all the way with your fingertips, and then you can create thinner coils if you're looking to create something like a spiral. As you can see, I've created some spirals like here. You can see in this area, I've created like a braided coil. That's also something that you can create. So try to create some different types of coils, joining and adding, seeing if you can get some areas to go in and out and then straight up as well.